Well, we can probably take the chance to talk about Genesis a little bit. And I don't want to just use this opportunity to talk only about the Genesis points, but also a little bit about maybe the state of Genesis, which is supposed to be more of a discussion. Because I feel like the quote unquote hype around Genesis has gone back a little bit. I still see people talk about it every once in a while. I still see that people play it. I also unfortunately missed my locals monthly Genesis locals this past month, which I really wanted to go, but I couldn't. So I guess that's the good news, is that that's still happening. The monthly my locals is hosting Genesis once a month now, which is cool. And I guess I wanted to hear from you guys how you guys feel about it at the moment. Like how actively are you still playing Genesis is something that I care about, because I still think Genesis is a phenomenal idea, and I still really want it to thrive, and I still plan on participating in future Genesis YCSs, because remember, they have announced that you can take part in Genesis YCSs and regular YCSs basically at the same time, because Friday is going to be day one of Genesis, Saturday is going to be day one of Advanced Constructed, and Sunday is going to be day two for both. Which is something that as soon as we have the first YCS in Europe again with this change, I am going to be out there playing Genesis on the Friday, 100%. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to be trying to play Genesis on the Friday. So I still care about this format, even though if I have not played it much recently, which was number one, because I wasn't able to play it on Friday of YCS Dortmund, because for Dortmund, they did main event Saturday, Sunday, so I didn't play it there. But as soon as they return to YCSs on Fridays, I will definitely be playing Genesis. So let's take a look at Blazing Dominion Genesis points update. This, I believe, is only adding points to the new cards from Blazing Dominion. They are not adding or reducing points of other cards already in the format. This is just supposed to put some points on the new cards, which I'm a fan of in general. This has been a topic with Genesis format for a while now. People are like wondering like how many points should they be putting on new cards? Should they put any points on new cards at all? If so, how hard should they put the points? And I think in this case, I can already see they've put some pretty decent points on cards. So here we start with Cool Tune hits. We've got Cool Tune Rotary, 40 points. 40 points is a lot, especially because Cool Tune already has a couple of points. I forget what they did, but I think for some of them, like Q, they already put like 5 or 10 points on some of them. Like they already have a couple of points on Cool Tune in Genesis. So Cool Tune Rotary going to 40 points. Basically, and then also Cool Tune B2B also 40 points, which means I believe if you play Rotary and B2B, even only as one-offs, you basically already get to play no non-engine. Which is tough for Cool Tune in particular in Genesis format, because Cool Tune really wants to play the tuners, right? It really wants to play Effect Veiler, Bell, Ogre, Ash, whichever one is good in the format right now, but all of those have points. Without exception, right? Like everything, every tuner hand trap has points, which makes this a very meaningful restriction, which is good, by the way. Even though I'm not the biggest Cool Tune hater out there, you know, I kind of vibe with the deck. I think it would have been way too broken for Genesis format. And that also, Cool Tune Crackle going to 70 points just means you're not going to play the card, period. Like Cool Tune Crackle at 70 points basically means it's banned. It's basically banned in Genesis format, which is fine, because the mechanic of extra deck ripping is like not super welcome in Genesis format. They set that in the past, so Crackle getting an absurd amount of points is fine, I suppose. I don't really care about it. So yeah, you're not going to play Crackle. I think there's a world in which you just don't play B2B, unironically. I think this means you're going to play one Rotary and no B2B and no Crackle, is my prediction for Genesis format Cool Tune. I think it's going to exist. I think it's going to be a solid deck still, with the addition of even just one Rotary is going to be pretty strong. But I don't think you're gonna make 40 points for B2B work. I think B2B just doesn't see play, because B2B is also not that important for the deck. quite frankly. It's a cool card. It's super fun to summon, and it makes OTKing super easy. But it's not the most important card for the deck to function. So I think you're just going to play one Rotary and call it a day. Which is good. Those new cards would have been incredibly broken for Genesis. Alright, it's a good start. My goats, the Clown Crew, are getting some points. This is understandable. As much as I love this deck, I think it's fair enough because this deck, once again, for Genesis standards, I think this deck is incredible. Clown Crew, Matinee, Operatics, 20 points. Malabarisme, 10 points. Bianca Viso, 1 point. This means if you play 3 of each of these, you have 93 points already. Which, dude, I'm still gonna play this deck in Genesis format. I don't care. I'm gonna play this deck in Advanced Constructed too. I hate it. I love it so much. I'm gonna play it anyways. Once again, similar to Cool Tune though, this means that one of the main things that you want to be playing with this deck doesn't really work, because you're gonna draw a bunch of cards in your end phase, and on your opponent's turn, you can't really draw into hand traps if you can't play hand traps, if they're all pointed. So I don't know where you can cut here in order to make some room for the hand traps. Maybe you can play this card as like a one-of to save on 40 points, but this is like kind of the best card in the deck, so I don't know how that works. Yeah, that's the thing, right? You can still play the full engine, but I don't know what you fill the deck with from that point. I don't know what kind of non-engine you would play if you can't play any hand traps in this deck, but yeah. Okay. Power Vice Dragon and the Crimson King. I can't really speak much about these. I just know that Red Dragon Archfiend, I think, was already a playable deck, even though not the best deck, but playable in Genesis format. So I would assume that the support for this deck, since it's also not really reliant on any link monsters, probably has potential in Genesis format, so some small points on these is probably warranted. I don't hate it, not against it, but I also am kind of interested to see how well the deck can still do with these changes, but it's fine. We have an Archmage card that gains 10 points, which is understandable as well. Archmage, once again, has been a pretty solid deck in Genesis already, so I'm a fan of not giving them another free tool on top of what they already had. 10 points doesn't seem like the biggest deal in the world. You might still be able to play it if you really want to. Elf Note Regina goes to 40 points. This is following the logic of, in general, a lot of the turn 0 plays in the format gaining a large amount of points, because Genesis format is supposed to be a little bit slower and lower power level, and in most cases it does achieve this. So cards like Holly Sue and Elf Note Regina and Dracotail Phimena have all been pointed pretty heavily, because they have major impact on the speed of the game, right? And so this card is no different than that. So I'm a fan of them putting a decent chunk of points on them. Doomsy Graflario, this is the new rank up dude, I think, the one that you summon like a Zodiac onto another Doomsy Exceed. Really strong card. And I think Doomsy, even though, I mean, doesn't have access to any of the power patrons and pendulums, still probably a solid deck in Genesis format. This, I don't know, I still think overall everything I'm seeing here so far is good. So I know, or at least I feel like Genesis format at the moment is kind of like experiencing a little bit of a dip in popularity. I see less people talking about it. It was like the initial announcement, it was pretty hype, and there was a lot of things happening that were all pretty hype, and now it's kind of like settling in. But I still think the format is being managed pretty well, honestly. A lot of the things that are happening here are all pretty cool and pretty good. And as soon as this format, I think, here's the thing. As soon as this format is becoming a regular thing at YCSs that you can play on Fridays, you don't have to worry about choosing between Genesis and the main event. I think that's going to be a very key moment where people start caring more for Genesis. And let me tell you, I think a lot of the discourse about Genesis on the internet is happening from people who don't actually actively play Genesis format. They've either never played it or only played a couple of games, especially in the beginning phase where the format was not fully fleshed out yet, which, by the way, they did say in the beginning, hey, this is not a finished thing yet. Like, give us some time to manage the points. And then people still were very unhappy with some things in the format. And I feel like if you give this format some time, and a fair chance, you're gonna realize this format is actually what a lot of people are asking for from modern Yu-Gi-Oh, which is just lower power modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Like that is genuinely how this feels to me. Every time I've played Genesis format, I've had a ton of fun, and I've had a much better time playing my favorite decks because it just felt like the power level was not that high. It's been an awesome experience. So if you haven't tried it yet, I really recommend trying it. Officiator of Doom Samuel, 10 points. That's one of the, I think one of the zombie XYZs. Okay. Exceptional Schedule, 10 points. Pedralis Harmonia, 50 points. Now, remind me real quick, what are the points on some of the synchro targets for this? Because did they put points on Malong? Am I misremembering that? I feel like they put points on Malong to weaken Ultimate Slayer at some point. They put some points on Malong, yeah, okay. So Malong in Genesis format, because Herald of the Arclight is also a lot of points, you probably are never going to play Herald of the Arclight with Fedralis Harmonia. But this basically means Fedralis Harmonia is not really 50 points. It's basically like at least 55 because you have to put Malong as well. And then some other synchros that maybe your deck naturally plays. Which means you can't even play 2 copies of this card, right? Unless you just go for Enigmaster Packbit. Packbit is free. Yeah, Packbit is free. So you could play 2 Harmonia and no other non-engine. Here's the thing. 50 points is the same number that Max C is at. So are you going to play 2 Fedralis Harmonia or are you going to play 2 Maxis? I think the answer is 2 Maxis in most cases. The only exception that I could see, Fedralis Harmonia is a dragon, right? Fedralis Harmonia is a dragon, so maybe there's a deck where you can search it in some way, shape, or form. So maybe it could be a one of, but realistically, I think this 50 points. I'm not gonna say it's too much because the card is really powerful, and I don't know if they even want the card in the format. Like genuinely, I think sometimes you just release a card in TCG that is just too powerful for Genesis format. And Fedralis Harmonia might be one of those cards. So I think that this basically makes the card almost unplayable in Genesis format, but I think that might be okay. I think that might be okay because the card is this powerful. Dominus Spark, 10 points. That seems like honestly not the worst deal for Dominus Spark. I'm a fan of Dominus Spark, by the way. I've been not the biggest fan of Dominus Purge and Dominus Impulse, but that's because those cards are basically negates, and I'm not a fan of negates. Dominus Spark being removal based, I think is very fun. I'm a big fan of Dominus Spark. 10 points is still a lot for a hand trap. You know, it still is a decent chunk because usually you would want to play 3, which is 30 points, which is rough, but maybe some decks will consider it. And then Solemn Accusation is 12 points. This is a pretty toxic card. And probably, I don't know if it's my least favorite card out of Blazing Dominion, but I definitely am not a fan of this card. I do think this is enough points for it though, because this is a side deck card most of the time, right? And I think people are going to have a very hard time justifying 36 points in your side deck for Solemn Accusation, as it is a powerful card. And some people are arguing it might even be higher than this, or they want it to be higher than this. But realistically, I think 12 points for a side deck card is really, really hard to justify playing. So yeah. Okay. Overall, honestly, once again, shout outs to the people managing Genesis format. But this feels like it's a pretty spot on analysis of which kind of cards out of the set would be really strong out of the gate. There's a few decks that people are mentioning that should have received changes, but are not really part of Blazing Dominion. And I think that's just going to be something that they handle on a future update. I think Magnet Warrior is a deck that people have been talking about because Magnet Warrior is pretty good, I think, in Genesis. And doesn't have many points or even any at all. I don't know, actually. Yeah. But, I mean, this is not supposed to be an update for existing decks. It's supposed to just be the update for the new cards. I still don't see a reason why they can't do both at once. Like, they could do this and then also drop a couple of changes to the other cards in the same update. But, yeah. As you can see, some of these cards have a rather extreme number of points assigned to them ahead of their release. We would normally prefer to let the gameplay sort out what the going rate for each of them should be, but there are two categories where we're assigning high initial costs to because the gameplay and deck building impact of the cards is so obvious. Do Everything cards. Cool Tune, Rotary, Crackle, and Regina all set up an extraordinary number of actions for their respective decks and help you bypass existing point costs assigned to those themes. In addition, Crackle aggressively attacks the extra deck. Okay. I mean, I like that they're explaining themselves here. I think that's good communication. But I'm on board here. I think sometimes you need to go hard on new cards with points. And I think it's better sometimes to start high and move down than the other way around. Like, I know maybe the instinct is like, okay, let the card be free or let the card be low, and then if it is a problem, then put some points on it. But I think the other way around is actually better for the health of the format, to make sure it's not ruined by some super broken card or deck. I think it's better to start high on the good cards, and then if they don't see any play, move them down a little bit until they start seeing play, and then you've kind of found the balance already, right? Whereas if you start with low, then people are going to play it everywhere, then they're going to try to put points on it, and then maybe if you're unlucky, people still play it everywhere, and so on. And then you just are in this spiral of always having this balancing problem. High impact disruption from hand. In terms of so-called turn 0 disruptions, Spedrolus Harmonia is the best in-slot card for any deck that can spend at least 5 extra deck slots on Synchro Monsters, which many Genesis decks already do. It's strong enough that it can push players who don't want to play a Synchro deck into playing a Synchro deck just to have access to this card. Yeah. There are a couple more cards we were looking at, but it's probably less likely that they will take off, so we will wait and see on those. But the strength of so much of Blazing Dominion is immediately evident that more and higher initial costing was warranted for this set. I agree. And now some reminders and a question answers. Okay, a reminder for Genesis at Old Columbus. YCS Columbus will have the first full-fledged Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series event. One big event like every other YCS. Day 1 will be Saturday. This will change starting in August, when day 1 for Genesis will be on Friday. I think this is still the biggest deal for Genesis and popularity, is you gotta give people who already play the game a reason to play Genesis, which is if you basically tell them, hey, you can play a second YCS on the same weekend without any problems. Round 3 started. Okay, we'll move over in a second. Day 2 on Sunday for those who make it. All prizes are the same as advanced format. The trophy, the prize card, the giant card of the winner's choice, effect, Villa card, Trooper, YCS, for exception, no WCQ invites for obvious reasons. Okay. Why are there no other point updates? Blazing Dominion injects a big pile of really powerful cards. Okay, yeah, and then this is all stuff we've already talked about. All right. Well, I think this is good news. I'm looking forward to the future of Genesis format still. I'm positive about it. I'm still having a wonderful time every time I play this format. So I hope that people are going to try it out more in the future, and the people who've maybe tried it like half a year ago and didn't like it as much, give it another chance, because I genuinely think it has developed into something very, very fun. And I'm looking forward to the first YCS this year in Europe, where we can play it on the Friday as well. I'm very hyped for that.